Hey, what's going on? Welcome along to episode 87 of the Strategy and Conversions podcast. I'm Jamie Davis, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Mark Tanner.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Mark, it's getting into October now. October's a couple of days away, 2023, and the jumpers have come out, right? It's getting a bit cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's coming on, and we thought this would be a good case now to talk about a topic that we talk about quite a lot, and we've mentioned it a few times on the podcast, and that's when we get into kind of seasons of business.
Yeah.
We look at, and there's a few things of looking at it this way is like one, I always talked about seasons when we talk about marketing and sales, is that when you get like a big business, they plan their winter marketing in summer and the summer marketing in winter. So we're always kind of looking at being ahead of the game. Now, there are people, like I said, we're moving into October now. There will be people who December is a busy month for them, but they haven't even thought about marketing or anything like that yet, and it's like it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before we start seeing Christmas adverts and everything, but they're not even thinking about it. They're not on that wavelength now, and that's because they're leaving it until maybe December when they start planning out their next month's marketing. So there's that side to it, but then there's also the seasons of, look, when you're going through good times, when you're going through that summer, the sun's shining. There's that saying, make hay whilst the sun shines, right?
Yeah.
Do that stuff within the summer so that when it gets to the winter, because there's always cycles in business, we're always going to have sort of bad times and good times, is that when we get to that winter, we're okay.
Yeah. And that's, talking about the good times and the bad times, the worst time really to commit money into marketing spend is when you're going through bad times, you don't have the money or the money is very tight, because straight away you don't make the best of decisions. When money's tight, you're not going to make the best of decisions. So when you're going through the good times, and this is as applicable for small, really small micro businesses as it is to the businesses who are making, in the 2-3 million turnover, is that when times are really going well and you have nothing, I won't say nothing to worry about, but you have the financial issues are not really crushing you. That's the time to think, right, what marketing campaign can we put in place, and how much spend are we happy to put in there for this to get more customers? I mean, it comes back to how much money are you willing to spend to actually get customers? And you're going to make much better decisions when money isn't too much of a problem, as to when all of a sudden money gets tight, problems start to hit home, and you go more into firefighting mode. Because that's not a time for making right decisions at all.
That's it. I mean, that's the whole kind of like desperation side, isn't it? I'll be honest, like that. Like if you think about it, like with us, like people that we've worked with over the years and stuff like that, this is always the problem. Is that most of the time when people come to us, they've hit a bad patch.
Yeah,
it's like they're trying to get out of that hole, and it's like, why didn't you come to us 6 months ago when things were going well then? So I needed it. And it's like, but putting the right steps in place, putting the right tracks that you can actually weather the storm, that's what you need to do. So that when you come in those times and you're just like, you're desperate, you're like, okay, I need to make more money by next month. Especially like you said, that kind of micro business, women sole traders. And it's like, right, okay, I need to make money next month. And it's like, you're always going to be firefighting. You're always going to be trying to make money next month. When it's like, okay, that when you're looking at the bigger term and stuff, you get to overcome those kind of blips. Now, I always look at it as like you take like the stock market, right? Like if you take it each day, it's kind of up and down.
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, it's not drastic or anything like that, but it's kind of up and down each day. And when you look at it as a week, there's been some fluctuation, whether it's up or down. It's kind of moved along. It's never stayed still. Right. And then you look at it over the space of like, say, 3 years, and all of a sudden it's like you've got massive kind of growth. But each along the way it's kind of, it's had peaks and troughs. And so we get that in business. Some months are going to be better than other businesses. Other months, there's going to be some businesses that have better quarters in the beginning of the year to the ones at the end of the year and stuff like that. It's going to happen. Yeah. But people just kind of think, okay, once I get something in place, it's just plain sailing. It's going to be a straight line. And it should never, and it should always go up. It should never go down.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. That thinking of when things are good, nobody thinks they need any help, because things are going great, and you think, right, I've done something really well, great, I'm going to enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not saying necessarily that help is the right word, but they need to then look forward and learn about, okay, so what made things go well? What have I learned from that? And what can I then, from that learning that I've, that showed me what things went well, what can I do more of that's gonna kind of promote that well-being? And but also look at the downside. Um, is that okay? What were the downsides that we've now come through? Great, but what were they? What caused those? How can I get around that so those things don't happen again, or happen to a much lesser degree? So there's a kind of the planning of okay, let's do more of what we're doing well to keep the company going and to keep our business going, so we can keep expanding. But it's also analysing what went wrong. So in that through you've come out of a bad patch and you're into a good patch, but don't ignore the fact that you've had to do that and you've done well to come through that. But don't ignore the fact what led to that in the first place. Was it bad business decisions? People will blame the environment. They'll blame that. Oh well, I mean, COVID was a obviously very difficult one to predict, and a lot of people. But there were so many businesses that I know of that when COVID struck, already had built resilience into their business, financial resilience. They didn't feel the pinch as much because they planned for something disastrous. And so I think it's that element, if you like, that thinking of disaster planning. What happens if that happens? What's going to happen in my business if that happens again, or even worse? So, say for example, with all the problems we've had with the weather and everything, and companies that have never known flooding before being flooded out, lost everything. They've lost data on servers and all that kind of stuff. That is as big a disaster, if not worse, than COVID. And there's planning for those. I mean, we know that there's all sorts of external environmental situations that are going to become more serious. So how can we start mitigating to the risk for those kind of things? And I think that's that risk planning. A lot of people ignore, and maybe they don't know how to do it. I'm not sure, but even if they do, a lot of people ignore.
I think, like you said there, I mean, like disaster planning. I think that's just something that we don't factor into a day to day, do we? That's the thing. It's like we're not thinking, okay, And if you think about it, like even in life, we look at that. We know we should have that kind of emergency kind of account with all the money in and stuff like that. But we also kind of think it won't happen to us. Like it'll be fine, And it's like I saw this meme the other day, and it did make me laugh because it's so true. And it's just like cars are just like random, right? Like you think you own a car, right? And all of a sudden one day it's like something goes and it's £500. And this is like, it is like that. You are just, I can't think of a different way to describe it. It's like a ticking time bomb, isn't it? Like something's going to go wrong at some point. You're just hoping that it's going to cost you like something that's affordable rather than something that's like going to put you back. And in business, I think we do this a lot also. We kind of look at that going, yeah, okay, maybe my salary's covered, right? Maybe the staff's salary's covered. Maybe we've got a bit here. Maybe we're chucking money at marketing and that. We're fine. Everything's ticking along. But then, like you said, something happens. Yeah. And it's like, okay, it changes our business completely. Where's that money coming from? And now I'll be honest, I can remember the pandemic hitting, like that first part in the UK where it was like, right, okay, we're gonna close a bit, you need to stay at home, lockdowns coming, all that kind of thing. I had clients calling me, just like, actually, first of all, they ignored me, right? But then they finally called me back and stuff like that, because I'm just like, look, the invoices are outstanding, like what's going on? And they're just like, we don't know if we have a business anymore. Like, we don't know if we can pay you. And it was just like, for me, it was crazy, because I'm just like, even for myself, I'm like, wow, like one client's gone, two clients gone, three, four. All of a sudden, you're like, wow. And it's like, I know we obviously, we started the podcast, shortly after and stuff like that. We adapted, we changed and everything, and, some of those clients stayed on, new ones came on board. But then, I know some of those businesses now that are still going. But I wouldn't go back and work with them, because I was like, I wasn't a consideration when things went bad, right? I mean, we could have worked for it together. We could have got through it. All you had to do was say to me, look, let's just delay this payment. Can we do something? Can we sort this out? Can you help us with this? What can we do? Instead of it just being like, right, we're cutting you off. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, like let's just do that. And that just maybe me being stubborn, like not going back
Yeah.
to work with them or something like that. But the point I want to make there is that they obviously did that because they're just like, we can't afford to pay it, or
Mm.
we can't afford to continue because we don't have anything there. And it's like
And
because they just looked after themselves throughout however long.
yeah, yeah, and I think that yeah, this is part of the problem. Part of the problem, isn't it, is with we live in that kind of society where we want everything now, and so when we start making money, when we start getting money, look, we've got some money in the business, right? We can now go on this holiday. We can do this. We can do that. We can buy the Range Rover. We could, and they don't drain their money. They don't drain their company of money necessarily, but they take an awful lot in dividend and that kind of stuff because they can. But you have to know that again, the whole point you're talking about at the very beginning, seasons of business. If you're in a summer, what comes after summer? Autumn or fall if you're in the States, and then winter. Winter can be really, really harsh, really bad. Um, so when you're in the summer, so many people uh, just 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 take the money out and have and live a fantastic lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we're in business. But always being mindful of putting something back for contingency. There's a huge thing in accountancy when you talk about contingency planning, not just about financial, but about circumstances, servers and things like that. Do I back up my server? What's my contingency? Is it backed up on the cloud? Is it easily accessible? What's my contingency for my team all going off sick? Um, how am I going to do that? Do I have another team that can switch on, or do I have a set of contractors that I can use? So contingency is everything, but it is that when you come to someone in a panic thinking, oh, I can't do it, well, I need your help. By then, they've gone over the edge, and it's so difficult to help people because they're in free fall, or they can be. One thing I come across, I know it's a different situation in a way, but it's really interesting. Debt coach, yeah, I'm a, as you know, I'm a debt coach as well. So many people come to the 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 charity that I work for with their debts, and they've got bailiffs knocking at the door. Sorry, they're called enforcement agents now, knocking on the door. And like you said, you think, why wait so long? You knew you were in debt. You knew you had these letters coming, and they may have all sorts of anxiety issues and stuff. And I really sympathise with them because a lot do. A lot are struggling with that. But when the times were good, when you think you've got debts, clear them. When you've got the money to clear them, just ease them out so that all of those enforcement agents don't come knocking at the door. That you don't suddenly say, "I need help with my debt and I need help like now," because with that kind of industry and also with business, you're not going to be able to turn around on a sixpence. Businesses take time to. You've taken the time to slide down in the business because it hasn't happened overnight. And even as I say, in the case of the pandemic, although that happened overnight, the business going bust didn't have to happen overnight. It's been a steady. There's been wrong decisions have been made over time, and this just happened to be the massive final nail that's really done it. But because of all those wrong decisions, and not keeping eye on the numbers. This is why I'm big on numbers. Not keeping on the eye on the numbers, and especially what have we got in reserve? What contingency do we have? Can we weather 6 months of suddenly no trading? Because that's what it came down to in COVID. And I said, if you get flooded, you hear about businesses. Quite near where we are in Bristol, because we're both from Bristol, down in West Somerset. So West Somerset doesn't normally get flooded badly, but so many companies. There's a big thing on the news about a couple of weeks ago, or if that, maybe even a week ago. This guy was in business who had been in business all his life, and he just said, "I've got nothing; it's all gone." And you think, but it can't have all gone, surely. It's not. It's only just been flooded, but it's just been flooded. But he just lost everything because he obviously probably didn't have any decent backup systems. I don't know about merchandise. I think he was a shop, so he obviously had stock, and the stock's been ruined. But that should have been insured. There's all these kind of things.
Mm.
There's ways you can mitigate all these problems, but the challenge is for business owners to actually think about those things when they're having a great time.
Oh, man, absolutely. I mean, so many nuggets in there, isn't it? I mean, that whole kind of thing of wanting that immediate kind of,
Yeah,
result really from everything. It just never happens that way. We always kind of want, there's always a compound effect. And as you always say, it's like you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. It's
yeah,
like, it's that kind of thing there. But I think something you hit on there, like you said, that kind of business owner and them saying, look, it's all gone. I think sometimes, like in that situation, it could just be like mismanagement from that one person, right? We've heard those stories that you've got a
mm,
sole trader, it's all on them, they're living month to month kind of thing. If it's gone, it's gone. Like that's it. But you also see it with businesses, and like
mm.
we've known businesses, and I
Oh
know
yeah,
a guy the other year, and he's doing this was before COVID, and he's doing a couple of million a year, but he's making no money. And in the end, he goes bankrupt because he's making no money. And that kind of stuff there is that it was pushed and pushed to grow the business. And I think you get this, like when you were talking now, I was just thinking, it's like you get this kind of stuff. You get the whole kind of business coach kind of approach. I think it is where it's like, okay, you need more people. You need to work out your processes, and then you get people in to do the processes because you need to go on holiday and the business run itself. Otherwise, you don't have a business kind of thing, right? But they never look at the other factors. They never look at that supply tap. Well, look, what if one of these, this kind of client line dropped off? What if the supplier line stopped?
yeah,
What if your price, what if your costs go up?
yeah,
They never look at that kind of stuff where they factor in that kind of, like you said, that risk sort of mitigation, that analyzing where those risks could be, that you protect yourself so that when there
yeah,
is that winter. And so, mate, I think something just to clear up as well for any kind of listeners, just in case there is a bit of confusion, we are talking both kind of ways of seasons here, right? Because I started off by saying, look, plan your winter, summer,
yeah, yes,
and stuff like
yeah,
that. But when we're talking about the seasons of like, you have the good times, which are the summer, and the bad times, which are the winter, but they can last however long. That's not a case of each year you're
yeah,
gonna have a good summer and a bad winter. It is like you could have a summer for like 3 years,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you could
yeah,
have a
yeah,
winter for like, I don't know if you would last a winter for 3 years, but you could. Like
yeah,
that's the thing, these things can last as long as they last. But and you see it in industry. I think that like, there's a book behind me somewhere. I can't think where it is now, and it's a Forbes. It's all to do with kind of the stock market and stuff like that. And it actually talks about if you take the stock market over however many years, right? So just take the last 100 years, you will
yeah,
spot that there are cycles where certain industries do better in certain cycles. And it's just like it's just like look, it's always going to happen. If you're in insurance, there's going to be times when you're doing great, and then there's going to be a decline to when it's rubbish, and then there's going to be an incline again. It's the same in property, it's the same in utilities, the same in groceries and stuff like that. It's always this thing with it. There's always that cycle that happens. It's out of your control when it happens and stuff like that. All you can do is protect yourself and work through it. And what I mean by that is not saying it's always going to be really bad, but it just means that look, it may not be as easy to grow within that time. When
yeah,
the other times when it's easier to grow. So your winter could just be that you're just stuck. You're stagnant for a little while.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because of like with anything, there's different degrees of um, there's different degrees of winters, aren't there? But it's just something I read about today, just read about, and I haven't. Don't quote me on this because I haven't really done any research to find out if this is true or not. But apparently, a guy called is it Jim Collins, I think, wrote a book called From Good to Great,
Yeah.
and he focused on a few businesses apparently that I haven't. I must confess, I haven't read the book. He focused on some good, on some big, on some reasonable businesses that had gone to becoming great, and apparently that was before the pandemic. I think it came out, and I think he's supposedly writing a book now or just released, and it's a book called The Great Fall or something like that, and it's about how those businesses have fallen by the wayside, or a lot of them, because they and that's to do with their hubris and pride, but that's a kind of a different thing altogether. But it's their thinking that we've cracked it. It's that well, we've cracked it now. We're all done. That's it. It's brilliant. We've gone from good to great. We're really going now. And without thinking about, well, contingencies, what's going to happen when what's going to happen when um, a great cargo ship goes sideways in the Suez Canal and stops everything
Mhm.
for weeks and weeks? What's going to happen when there's a war where in the country where you're getting your supplies from? What's going to happen when you have massive floods and all that kind of stuff? Because they're all around. They're becoming more frequent. And if you're mad now, if you get to the stage where you aren't planning for the to batten the hatches, if you like,
Mhm.
using the nautical term. If you're not planning for that, then you will get affected because it's so prevalent. And I know that insurances and all the rest of it are going sky high and ridiculously high. But how do you insure for how do you insure your business, whatever your business is, whether it's a retail or a service business or whatever it is? What's the best insurance you can put in place and the most affordable for yourself to so that when those things happen, that you can get past them and don't be sat proud and too proud and arrogant to think that it's never going to affect you. That once you've made it, it's never going to affect you because it can.
Yeah, I just thinking then when you were talking as well, I think that there's a great book as well called Too Big to Fail.
Ah, okay.
I can't think what business it was about now, but if you just think about it, I mean, even like here in the UK, like how many different businesses have like, gone under and stuff over like the past like 20 years where you just think,
Yeah,
no way, like how could they go under? And you even see it
yeah,
like, think about it in, you think about football, right? Like soccer, for our American friends and that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you'll get a team who gets relegated from the Premier League, and you're just like, they're one of the biggest clubs. How can they get relegated?
How can they? Yeah, how can
Like
they?
that kind of thing. It's like but when you look at it, it's been a series of actions and stuff. It's not just been one day they just woke up and they couldn't play football and they got relegated. It's happened
Yeah,
over time, and that you're saying now. I mean, what I guess just one thing from what we've been talking about now is all not so much negative because it's like you have to look at this stuff, the risk and protection and stuff like that. But it kind of seem a bit like, okay, well, it's all doom and gloom. That there's no way out of it. But actually, like there's lots of ways to protect yourself. It's not just about kind of spending money, and insurance and all this kind of stuff. But it's like when things are going well, test out other things. Start
test
adding
out new.
in
Yeah.
different arms. Start seeing what's happening here and what's happening there.
Mm.
Like you take us for example, a guy we know he's got a shop and the energy prices gone through the roof, and he's just like, I don't know how I can continue with these prices. And like just straight away, the easiest thing was just like, look, you don't do anything online, do you? Like, do not think you should maybe do some
Yeah,
stuff online. I've been thinking about that for a while, but not sure if it's us and all this kind of stuff. Is like, there's not going to be an us in a year's time.
yeah,
You have to do something now. And it's like when times were good, when the money was sat in the bank, and like you said, maybe you're buying Range Rovers or you're off on holidays and all this kind of stuff. When the money's been there in the account, instead of using it to start growing this side and testing this side or something like that, you've just spent it on stuff that's not bringing anything back. And
mm.
now that there's a problem, you're just like, okay, like, I'm trying to make desperate kind of decisions now, and the desperate decision is I'm not going to spend any money on marketing or sales because I don't know where the next money's coming from. And it's like, well, I'm
Yeah, yeah,
going to get more customers without doing anything different. It's
yeah,
like that kind of stuff there is like, look, protecting yourself means, look, just start doing the things that can see you through, whether that be that you're training more staff to do more different things, whether it's a case
yeah,
of, like even something really simple where it's like, right, we know we're going to use this kind of service for the next year. So let's see, look, can we get a discount if we pay for it in a yearly kind
mm.
of thing rather than, always paying it monthly? Actually, can we even just buy that company?
Yeah,
Is if we're
yeah,
going to be using this kind of thing for the next 5 years, can we just buy a company that's going to do that for us?
yeah.
And looking at those kind of angles.
And one of the things you mentioned there, which is again which is a great nugget really, is about don't yeah, this isn't all gloom and doom. So I'm talking about the mitigating risk side, but there's also this side that says, okay, what further income streams can we build that aren't reliant? So if again the retail, the computer guy's got a shop, energy prices have boomed, and he's struggling because of because of that. But he didn't have an online presence. But he should have thought of that all the way back when times were good, when such stuff was flying out of his shop, and it was really like brilliant. And it probably didn't even think about. I don't. Oh, I don't need an online presence. I'm doing fine. That that is an example of that pride and hubris I was just talking about. I'm fine. I don't need to think elsewhere. I don't need any further marketing because we're fine. I don't need to think about other things I can do because we're fine. Well, when you're fine, that's the time to start building different income streams. So if one does get cut off, you're not suddenly think, oh, I can't do anything. You've got multiple income streams coming in, and in maybe in different products and different things, and services, and maybe selling, I don't know, selling books or something. I don't know, but you've got different income streams. Think about the different income streams. So when you look at the risk, you're not only looking at the insurance side and getting extra backup some stuff for your data and all the rest of it, and a different supplier maybe, and looking at all the different suppliers. That's one end. But at the other end, you're looking at multiple income streams so that when it hits, you're not just reliant on one or two channels of your income coming. They can both be affected by a physical phenomenon. But by the same token, you're not looking at only delivering services online necessarily, because what happens when the power goes down and there's massive power cuts? Okay, the business is gone. But if you had something you were selling as well, a physical product or something, that then it hasn't all gone because you've got the kind of the best of both, or a foot in both camps. Not to say the best of both worlds, but at least you're in two worlds.
Absolutely, like that stuff there. I mean, you take like my missus, for example, her Instagram account got hacked a couple of weeks ago. Right, like she doesn't use it for anything. It's just like, it's just a personal thing. She put some updates on there when she was doing some running or something like that, right? She hadn't used it in like a year, and then all of a sudden, like she's getting messages from people saying we've got some like weird message come through from you, some sort of crypto thing, and it like all of a sudden it's like, right, okay, she's been hacked and stuff like that, but you can get it back. Like the email's been changed and stuff like that. Like you just can't get it back, right? So it's like, thankfully, it's all been taken down by Instagram, but you can't get back into it, right? And it's like, for her, it doesn't matter. It's just like, don't use it anyway.
Yeah.
You imagine like one of these kind of influencer people, or like you're a business person that you're relying on most of your clients coming from your social media account on Instagram, and then one day it gets hacked.
Yeah.
And then at that point, then like that's that kind of winter. That's where your business could change it overnight, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden now you go, why didn't I start building an email list from these people?
Yeah, exactly.
But why didn't I start building another channel somewhere else also?
Yeah.
I start building YouTube and getting people over there to subscribe as well.
But I remember we've talked about this a while back now, I think. But I remember when Google changed all their algorithms, and people and SEO just disappeared overnight because everything changed, and people lost their only source of income because they had banked everything on that, without even thinking that they weren't in control of it. And that's the other thing, is that, talking about the seasons of business and the contingency planning. What are you not in control of? And you talking about alluding to, okay, I'm not in control of that. I haven't got a transport company. Let me buy one. So I am in control of that. So you become a little bit more in control of those things that you need for your business to be running, let alone be profitable. You need your business to be running. So start thinking about, when you've got that, when you're in that summer, that good times of business, is right. Okay, how can I make my business stronger by acquisition, and maybe acquiring things that I know that, if, for example, if I know you can't acquire an energy company, but things like, when prices suddenly triple, that you're not affected by it because you've actually taken some stance against it. I'm just thinking about, insurance companies. Maybe you could have tried to even just put your own money aside for that, for insurance. So because knowing this insurance company didn't provide it, But there's many different things, isn't there? I mean, email lists are a classic one, isn't there? Where people rely on their email list on Facebook or wherever. They got all their customers there, they got everything there, and then bang, and Instagram, and it just goes. And they haven't either created their own email list or they haven't dispersed it into different places. You know, like all the different CRMs you can go on.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that can happen, and we've seen in there's a big scare, wasn't there? Recently in small business, how they're getting hacked more and more and more because the larger companies now have got some very, very good cybersecurity stuff. But the smaller companies who don't think they're going to get hacked, well, that's where the focus is.
Becoming the targets now. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that it changes because
of course
you go for the low hanging fruit, and it's like, what's the low hanging fruit? Okay, people that maybe don't have the protection in place, and it is scary. As a whole, like business is scary anyway, right?
It is, yeah.
It's like when you it comes back to that thing that we always talk about, where it's kind of like, look, are you playing at business, or are you serious about business? Because if it's a professional business, then you're looking at steps to move forward. And when those steps are forward and you kind of maintain, then you look at moving forward again and moving on. And this is how you add in assets. And as you add in assets and growth, you also add in protection. And you add those different things. And one of the big things we talk about is the profit gap. So we talk about how do we close that profit gap? So as your turnover, your revenue is growing, why is your profit not growing? Why is it just at the same percentage? Why is it at the same level? So how do we look at, generating a better profit? How do we increase that net profit? Because if you think about it, every business, that's what they want, right? They want more positive cash flows, right? And it's like that positive cash flows is profit, the net profit that comes in, that is continuously coming in, and you're adding to it. Because that's what puts us more money in our pocket, gives us more options, more freedom, all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter if we're a sole trader, someone on a side hustle, or we're a I was going to say billion, maybe it doesn't affect that level, but multi-millions anyway. Is that what we're looking to do? Is just add more positive net cash flows in, because the more we can add into it, the more we can do.
Yeah, but talking about multi-billions, it did affect Barings Bank.
This is true.
I mean, they weren't keeping their eye on. One of the huge things to keep an eye on in business is not only your net profits, but your cash flow and your cash from your operations. So it was found that with Barings Bank, they had borrowed so much, so they had cash. They were dripping in cash, but it wasn't cash from their operations. It was borrowed cash from investments and stuff. So it wasn't actually their cash. They were not in control of their cash. Now, all sorts of different trading things and major problems happened, but they all had a knock-on effect. So one thing happened, and I don't know exactly the whole circumstances, but I remember one thing happened, led to something else, and then all the people called in their loans.
Yeah.
Bang! And all of a sudden, they don't have any operating cash because no one was keeping an eye on the fact their operating cash was apparently dropping all the time. They weren't generating enough from operations, but they could borrow in it because they had AAA ratings or whatever. They could just borrow. If they had a problem, they just borrowed money. It's like if people have got a VAT bill, we just borrow the money, let's do it. Got a tax bill, let's borrow it. And you think, whoa, hang on. This money you're never going to get back. And it's going to cost you, because it's not just the borrowing, it's the interest in that. And going back to the big companies, they have a massive interest bill because they've borrowed and borrowed. And you need to be, I'm not saying being cash rich, because sometimes you need to invest on that. So you need to have a balance between the borrowing. But I think, but that is called gearing, about how much you're borrowing compared to how much.
And I guess when we talk about those kind of positive cash flows and stuff like that, I mean, it can be in buying assets that produce those net cash flows. In theory, you kind of drop down to go back up. But it is that kind of way. But the reason I said maybe not the billions and stuff like that is I was thinking of it the other way, where the ones who are kind of multi-billion sort of stacked companies, is that they earn their money off of the interest of transactions and stuff like that. Anyway, I can remember actually having a chat with someone. I can't remember what it is they did, but they were quite high up in the chain of Asda here in the UK, like the supermarkets. I know there's some in the States which owns it. I can't think what it is now. Maybe it's Walmart. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Walmart. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a case of like, because of the size of them, their buying power is so strong, right?
Yeah.
That when they get all the kind of stuff shipped into them, but they've got something like 90 days, 120 days before they have to pay on that, right? So like they get the stuff in, right? They sell it all out in like days, and they order another load in, right? And they just repeat this for like however long, right? Knowing that they've all got 128 days, but 120 days before they have to pay, right? So
Yeah.
they've already made a profit on the sell. That profit is in the account earning interest now. The interest actually pays the bill, and they've
Yeah.
paid all
Yeah.
that money, or they've paid the bill, and the interest is their profit. And it's like
Yeah.
they're making more money off the interest than what they do off the transactions. It's like,
Yeah. I
it's
can
a
imagine.
different game. Like when you get to that sort of level,
Yeah.
when you kind of bring it back and you think of like maybe a sole trader trying to make 50 to 100K or something, is that you can't comprehend. It's not the same game that we're
No.
playing in business. It's like different. It's I don't know. It's the same game, different rules. Like, but
Well, it's and this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, we keep talking about this. You've got to change your thinking. The bigger you grow, you've got to start changing your thinking into that kind of thing. How and I don't condone taking 4 months to pay something because I
I
think
know
that's
it's
scandalous.
scandalous.
But I can understand why they put it in place, and they've been allowed to because they're just getting
Mm.
bigger and bigger. But it's that kind of thinking from, I guess, the accountants and the money men have also said, look, if we do this, we can pay them from the interest we've made on that profit rather than paying out a profit. And that's another big thing, isn't it? Is how can you protect your profit? So people, yeah, you typical profit and loss. So I earn, I don't know, let's make it really simple. I earn 100 quid a day, and I spend 30 quid a day. And so yeah, I've got a net profit of 70 quid a day. But and then if I want to buy something, I'm thinking, well, I've got 70 quid profit, so I can buy it now. But how can you buy it without cutting into your profit? So how can you suddenly change the way change the way you think? Well, actually, I can buy this because I can, and this is where borrowing can be useful. I can borrow that to buy that, but because I know that by buying that, it's going to produce me more, and therefore it's going to go back into my profit again, creating resilience for when you go into the winter of business. It's that kind of clever thinking. If I can, without going too crazy on buying things on credit, if I can buy it on credit to buy this asset, that will then generate money for me, which will go onto my bottom line and still pay for the asset. Wow, yeah,
Yeah.
quid's in.
I mean, like to give an example for that for everyone listening, like you imagine you're a builder, and each month you have to rent a generator for a job, and it costs you X amount. Well, if you buy it, even if you get it on some sort of finance kind of thing, is that's yours then?
Yeah,
Is that after a year of you paying the same amount of money to borrow it, or maybe a little bit more to rent it, maybe a little bit more. After a year, you don't have that cost anymore.
yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it,
so and all that. This is where I mean that this whole topic about contingent stuff is so tied up to so many things in the business of how you can
yeah.
build the contingency and how you can be clever. But again, when you first start out in business, you're probably not aware of all this stuff
Mm.
and aware of this type of thinking, and that's why you need to be learning in business. You need to be growing your awareness, growing your education in business as soon as you start um, to start understand the way the big businesses work and start as early as you can to emulate some of the things that they do because that's how they've grown. Success leaves clues, as they used to say, or as
Yeah.
they still say.
If they still say it. I mean, I would think back to like I think one of the great examples with what we're talking about here, and like you said, it's not that scale. So not everyone's gonna be able to kind of relate to this, but you can look at different ways. But it's like when you look at McDonald's, right? You think of McDonald's, and everyone talks about the process and all this kind of stuff, right? But the smarter kind of play is when you look at it, right? People buy the McDonald's franchise, however
Mm.
much they pay. 75K here in the UK, 300K, however much it costs, right? That kind of thing. They buy that franchise, they get to trade as McDonald's, they get to make some money from it, stuff like that, right? But each month, they pay the rent of the building to McDonald's because McDonald's own the building.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
it's that kind of thing there where it's like, look, McDonald's are always getting paid first before a burger is sold.
Mm.
They're getting paid because they're in the property business.
Mm.
And it's like, it's that there where you go, okay, look, that wasn't always the case. It's like they've noticed that as they've kind of grew and they've gone, hang on a minute,
Mm.
if we sell this franchise and they just set up in their shop over there, we just get paid a percentage of the burgers. That's nothing that we can really live off of. But now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we own the building.
Yeah.
But we can borrow against the building. We can raise capital against the building. All this kind of stuff. We can defer payments from the building if we want to borrow something else. There's all this kind of stuff that they can do because they always earn the building. They always know that the money's coming in. If that franchisee wants to sell, they sell to someone else who takes over to the franchise. What do they do from day one? They pay rent to McDonald's for the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's that kind of thing. So it's like you now can be thinking about that in your business. It's just like, right, okay, what is it we're doing here? How can we add something to it? And it could be something simple that you're a personal trainer, and it's just like, well, look, all the kind of supplements, all the kind of accessories that you use and stuff like that. Instead of people going off and buying it somewhere else, why can't you just sell it?
Right, just sell them. Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like you can do it. You can even just do it as an affiliate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the big thing, isn't it? Affiliate marketing, and even sell it as a kind of, you've got your membership for the gym, but now you can have a recurring membership for supplements.
Yeah, I mean, how easy? Like, not even easy. That's not the right word. Yeah, I guess how easy is it for the person, right? The person being trained, right? If you said to them, do you know what? I know all the supplements that you need, and I can put it all together in a monthly package for you, and this amount of money, rather than saying, right, you need to go and get your protein, your creatine, your multivitamins, your aminos, whatever it is, that they need. And all of a sudden they've got a list and they've got to go off to the store somewhere and try and find it all. You can say, yeah, I can just get it all for you in one bundle, and it's like £50 a month. You'd be like, yeah, okay, that's easy. Give me the box, I'll take it home now. It's simple, right? But it's like, but people don't think about it that way. They just think, oh, okay, I've got to get another customer now for this. And it's like, we could be making more money on the supplements.
Yeah.
So the customers that you already have.
And again, it all comes back, doesn't it, to this contingency planning. So if your customers are worth such and such to you, and you kind of work out their lifetime value, how can you increase that value without having to go out and get new customers? And how can you increase that value? What else can you sell them that doesn't rely on a particular supply line or this or that? So again, going back to the membership, the classic one on the gym. So you got a gym and it sells supplements. Now the gym gets flooded, people can't come into the gym, but they can still sell those supplements. So they have created they've got a second stream now, because they can now say, oh, the gym, they've taken a major hit because the gym's flooded, people can't go in, but they can still sell their boxes of supplements to people who can maybe doing their, I don't know, going outside and doing their stuff
or something
until the gym reopens. And all of a sudden they haven't lost everything. They've lost a lot, but not everything. They could still have that lifeline.
I was just thinking then as well, it's like that day, there was lots of people who adapted, wasn't it, with like the pandemic and stuff, and doing online courses, like, or online fitness courses and stuff like that. I can't remember one guy, and I can't remember what space he was in. It's something to do. It wasn't mortgages, but it was something along that kind of line, right? We were about 18 months after the pandemic, and some sort of conversation. It was like, yeah, I'm thinking about adding like online sessions and doing like a Zoom call to do the kind of fact find with people. And it was just like, it's 18 months after the pandemic started. Like, why are you even just thinking about this now? You should have been doing that 18 hours after the pandemic started.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, it was 18 months. And, I was just like, yeah, man, if you haven't done it by now,
exactly. Yeah, everyone else probably has.
Yeah, it's just like you have your own little niche now by not doing it. So
exactly.
It's that kind of thing. But yeah, it is crazy. But I think we'll wrap up things there just by saying that the whole kind of point here is that there will always be summers and winters, in business. There will always be the good times. There will always be the bad times. It's important that when you have the good times, that you factor in the bad times.
Yeah,
you factor in that protection, that kind of, those risk channels where you go, okay, we are protected if the worst was to happen and stuff like that. And also, look, if you are in that bad time, just remember that the sunny days are coming. You just have to keep going at it. And I put a post out it, I think it was yesterday or something like that. Just saying about sometimes that you are doing the right things. You're just not doing enough of it, or you're not doing it for long enough. And like the point there is like, look, you have to keep at it. Like you said, everyone wants the kind of instant result. And it's like, okay, if it doesn't come in this month, then I'll jump onto the next shiny thing. And then I'll jump onto the next shiny thing and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, if you just kept doing what you were doing, maybe you just got a bit more committed to it. And instead of, doing it every couple of days, you did it every day. You're going to see some results.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's true. And that's again, when we were talking earlier, weren't we, about scorecards and keeping your eye on the numbers. That's why it's so essential to keep your eye on the numbers in business, because if you keep your eye on the numbers, you can see when bad times are around the corner, because you get an inkling that numbers are dropping. You think, why? And if you can't see a valid reason why, then, or it's an environmental reason, that gives you warning bells. Right, I need to change the way we do things.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like you adapt and test and make sure and put the precautions in place. You don't just change everything altogether, because it's just like, you lose out on the whole business and stuff like that. But when there's no business in place, that's what people tend to do. And it makes no sense.
No, it's crazy.
If business was going really well and this kind of, this new kind of shiny tactic jumped up, would you just quit doing everything in your business and jump onto that tactic? You wouldn't. So when things aren't going well, why would you forget all the basics that, are proven to work over time? And jump onto this kind of shiny object. But yeah, Mark, we'll wrap things up there. Is there anything you want to add just to close things off?
Well, I will actually, because I think that was really good. Because I go down the negative route sometimes of looking at mitigating risk and all that kind of stuff. And you take the positive stance of increase your income. And I think that's one thing to bear in mind, is that it's not just about covering yourself through all sort, through mitigating whatever risk you've got. You also have the option of increasing your income streams, the different streams you've got of money coming.
I think, man, this is where we do work well together, is that kind of yin and yang, is that whenever someone's looking at it in one angle, the other person looks at it from a different angle.
Absolutely.
And like you say, you are always much on numbers and I'm much on make the money. You like protect it and keep it, and stuff like that. And it just works. And on that note, we'll just say, look, head over to our website, strategyandconversions.com, see the stuff that we do, see what we get up to. We'd love to have you into sort of, I don't know, what would you say, our kind of inner circle? And work with us on what we do. And look, until next time, Mark, has always been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening, everyone.